Jam. Toon Jam.
Hello and welcome to Toon Jam. I am Matt.
And I'm J-Man.
And today we are talking all about Eon Kid, or as it's known pretty much everywhere outside of most English-speaking countries, Iron Kid.
Yes.
So let me tell you a bit about Eon/Iron Kid before we get started. It's produced by Day One CI and Design Storm in South Korea, and BRB Internacional and Televisión Española in Spain. While the series is known as Iron Kid in South Korea, Spain, and other non-English speaking countries, it is known as Eon Kid in the English-speaking countries, except in South Africa, the United Kingdom, and Ireland.
What?
Due to legal concerns, I think what it means is, it's very confusing. The point is, the reason there's the name difference is due to legal concerns, which I imagine, and this is only spitballing, there's no truth to this outside of what I've put together in my head, that it's due to the similarities to Iron Man. Just makes sense.
Yeah.
It might not be that, but you know, as a guess, it's probably that. It premiered in Korea on KBS2 on April the 6th, 2006, and on TV in autumn of 2006. In the United States, it is distributed by Manga Entertainment and premiered on the CW's Saturday morning Kids WB block, September 22nd, 2007. Interestingly, we in the UK didn't get it until 2019.
Wow. That's quite a wait.
It's on Pluto TV, which both of us are, of the UK.
Mm-hmm.
How many times have you watched Pluto TV?
Didn't know it existed until you just said it. So
there you go. I think it has a streaming service actually now.
Oh.
That could be wrong. I think it's like a sci-fi channel of some sort. I mean, that's a guess again. There's a lot of guesses today.
We're doing guesswork today.
A lot of guesswork going on. It's there's 26 episodes in total, and I can actually tell you about a bit of merchandising. I always like to tell you about the merchandise.
Mm-hmm.
Eon Kid toys were produced by the company Playmates in the United States in the year 2007 in the form of action figures. Formosa picked up the license for the toys and action figures that were sold in Europe, and the company New Boy in the Middle East. In the Middle East, a confectionery company called Sweetoon promoted and marketed Iron Kid in the form of cereal and milk products. Books were also released in South Korea by Day One CI, and there's also a video game that was released only in South Korea on the Game Boy Advance.
Oh.
It's also called Iron Kid. And today's fun fact, and this is a pretty fun fact, there was a live musical show based on Iron Kid that was performed on in August 2006 in South Korea.
That's amazing. A musical.
A musical,
Don't
yeah.
get a lot of them.
No, yeah. Especially about something, about a CG cartoon.
Yeah. That's so strange.
So yeah, pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah.
For us, this is an offbeat one. It was a recommendation given to us on Twitter. So with that, let's go into what's Twitter saying about Eon/Iron Kid.
Iron Kid, yeah. There's not a massive deal on Twitter. There seems to be some pockets of hardcore fandom in there, and that's mainly where I'm sort of pulling these quotes from. Victor Anita Aus 8 or whatever, who we had on before, who recommended the today's episode.
So thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks for that. They've they're responsible for a lot of Eon Kid circulating around Twitter. One of their comments was Jenny from Iron Kid/Eon Kid is a self-centered, spoiled brat who only cares about herself. # cancel a cartoon character. So
oh boy.
Yeah.
So extreme fan, but also with some, some problems about the show.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Jenny, we didn't get onto Jenny, I don't think, but I mean, I'm kind of glad we didn't at this point.
Yeah, it sounds aggravating. Sounds like one of those characters.
Yeah, not a fan. We've got Tipsy P on Twitter, who also says, woke up today and just went on a massive Eon Kid run. This was an elite series back in 07. So big fan.
So, big fan, yeah.
Yeah. It just woke up and was like, it's gonna be Eon Kid today. That's it. That's all I plan to do.
Yeah.
Just Eon Kid. Some people love it. Some people have got big memories,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, elite. That's like, I've never called a show an elite show. Is that some sort of, do people use that as slang as well? I mean, I know what it means, obviously, but
I think so. Yeah.
Might start using that.
Yeah. Next level show, Eon Kid.
Elite.
We've got Jay Hoggershoe, who says, Iron Kid? I thought it was Eon Kid.
There you go.
Which is a very popular thing on Twitter as well. Nobody knows what it's called.
Yeah, well, I mean,
apart from Victor and Anita
some questions to bed on that one, but
yeah,
a lot of guesswork from us as well.
Yeah, it is a weird one that it's you think they'd have just gone with solidarity on one of them, but legal issues they do happen, people.
It happens.
It's you just can't avoid it. It's a messy system, and even Iron Kid couldn't evade the legal system. And finally, we've got Seth D. Samarillo or Samarillo, who says, NGL, not gonna lie, as much as I love Eon Kid to death, Bubbles needs to shut TF up.
Oh, so which one is Bubbles? The dog?
The dog, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so, and I mean, that is I'd say, popular opinion.
Yeah.
Just joking that. That is also my opinion.
A preview of what's to come there. Okay, so from what it seems, from what we've garnered, and this is from a few comments, but the people that are into Eon Kid are into Eon Kid.
Yeah.
But even they have their issues with certain characters.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Okay, well, let's sort of talk about how, had you seen it, heard of it before, or?
No. I mean, maybe I think the style is just kind of familiar to, like the other Korean shows. Like we watch Cubics, and those two are they seem to come up in conversation a lot together. And I think, maybe I've seen some shots of it before, or I could just be confusing it with something else. So it's not something that I can be like, yes, definitely Eon Kid. So no, maybe not. Maybe I've never seen it.
No, I can honestly say I've never seen it, nor had I heard of it, which are always some of the best ones to do.
Yeah.
You go in unknowing. That's how David the Gnome happened.
Oh, man. And what an experience that was.
I mean, anyone that listens to the show is surely fed up of me mentioning it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you've watched it, you'll agree. Come on.
Yeah, there's two types of people. The one type who is annoyed of us bringing up David the Gnome, and the second type, everyone who's watched David the Gnome.
is still waiting on the David the Gnome Jam podcast.
Yeah.
I tell you what, it's an elite show.
It is, yeah. Elite. David the Gnome. Elite.
Yeah, I like that. I'm using that. That's David the Gnome.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's dig in. Eon Kid.
Mm-hmm.
It's first thing I sort of, the visual appearance. First thing you're gonna notice about a cartoon, I guess.
Yeah.
Because you see that before you even watch it. You look it up, what we're watching, see the pictures of it, get a loose idea of what you're gonna get. Maybe it matches up, maybe it doesn't. This has this sort of, it is like an anime look.
Yeah.
But it is what I would say is more of a cartoonish anime look, if that makes sense. Obviously, all anime is cartoonish because it's cartoons, but this is a bit more, crazy cartoony, American it isn't, but it has that added to it. Everything's very chunky.
Yeah.
You know, big hands, big feet. The clothes are all super chunky. It's got that mid-noughties, you know, everyone's wearing 3/4 length shorts.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of feel to it. It definitely feels of its time.
Mm-hmm.
But it has a look that is also familiar yet has its own feel to it, I think.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, it's kind of hard to put your finger on almost when you start watching it, because you're like,
Yeah.
oh, it's this. It feels kind of fresh in a way, but it's not. Like, you know, it's not.
Yeah,
At the
it's,
same
do you know what? It's like a, I guess, I mean, maybe it says more about my lack of knowledge on the area, but it's got a sort of Mega Man, like a new Mega Man look.
Mm.
And I know there are new Mega Man series and things like that I just don't really know about. So maybe someone listening is like, oh, it's just like Mega Man. I don't know. But to me, it felt like it had its own feel to it, and I liked that.
Yeah.
But that being said, also go on.
Sorry, yeah, it moves quite smoothly, doesn't it? Like the CGI is not particularly like janky or anything. Like the action seems to like move pretty well, and like, you know, there's the odd thing that looks kind of weird, but it just could be like odd choices. Like Bubbles' mouth always seemed kind of weird in comparison to everything else, just because it was like it just moves in weird angles and stuff. Unlike, you know, just a simple chomp that you'd probably expect from a robot dog. He's kind of got a bit more movement in there. It just kind of seems a bit odd, but you know, we'll go on to the Bubbles issues a little later.
Yeah.
hold on to that one.
I liked they definitely built up something like, you know, sort of the scavenger in, it's like a desert, but it was more like, you know, canyons. And it had like, you know, a feel to it.
Yeah.
You know, when he goes back to sort of where everyone's selling their junk to make money. And I can see, you know, why someone would be like, oh, I can see why it's got sort of a specific following.
Yeah.
Because if you liked it, I can see you'd be all in like, oh, this is really cool. I really love all this and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's funny because obviously this is the first episode. It's not like he doesn't really become Eon Kid in this episode.
No.
Like he finds the Iron Fist, not to be confused with the Iron Fist. But he finds an Iron Fist that's like, you know, this old hero used it to defeat an old villain, and the old villain's coming back. We kind of get all the start of the story.
Yeah.
But I did like that it was kind of, it wasn't just all over it by the end of the episode. It wasn't like, here's the premise, because you get that in the intro anyway.
Yeah.
And it kind of felt like the intro was like, oh, you've just told me what's going to happen. But
yeah, we have seen shows that happens.
Yeah. And then they show it you, and you're like, well. And they kind of did do that, but I felt that they were building on something a little bit more.
Yeah, I really like the idea that it sort of, he gets the suit over a series of episodes. So like you tune in back in to be like, oh, does he get another one? Like, you know, it's like a steady build up of a series. Like you don't get a lot of stuff like that. You know, it's either very sort of formulaic and it's just, you know, we're back to normal by the end of, you know, the episode, or it's like it all happens in episode 1 and then it just becomes formula after that. So yeah, I really like the idea that it's from what we've seen a full suit of Iron Kid in, you know, the promo stuff, and it's like, oh, so he, you know, there's a lot more to come, which is quite exciting, and I guess, you know, it makes you tune back in and be like, oh, what's he getting this time?
Yeah, and it is that sort of, I can see the similarities with this and Cubics, but it's almost like they are two sides of the same coin. So I can see the things that are slightly changed.
Yeah.
Like this has got like a bit more sort of fast-paced action.
Yeah.
You know, you do see some fighting at the start with like someone that's pretty capable and has got like a sword, and they're having like, you know, almost like a laser sword in it or something. And they're having some like, you know, well fought battle. the action's there,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a bit more. I don't want to say serious, but serious. Do you know what I mean? It isn't serious as a show, but it has a bit more of an edge to it.
Mm.
Whereas it feels like Cubits is a bit more probably aimed at a younger age, maybe, but only slightly younger.
Mm.
And I think I can see why if you liked one, you might really dislike the other.
Yeah.
Because it's those tiny differences that could be what you were after.
Mm.
So, I mean, the comparisons are obvious and they're there.
Yeah.
If you get me.
Yeah, the start was I was like, oh, this is quite different from what I expected going in.
Yeah,
because you just kind of go into this sort of like action movie, and like some of the dialogue's a bit like seems a bit tropey, and it's a lot of just like standard one-liners and stuff. So you're just like, oh man, this could be something. But then that just kind of disappears for the rest of the episode. We only see that guy again until like later on. So it's cool that it has, I suppose it's good that it has that element to it, but then it goes away and becomes, you've got the adventure side from the kid's perspective as well. Which is, pretty much, I mean, I'd say probably more fun to follow than just going straight in on a sort of generic looking action type thing. So
yeah. Okay, well let's talk about what you didn't like.
Mm.
Let's hit it straight off with, is it Bubbles?
Bubbles, yeah.
Let's go with that. No, we already know you don't like that, so let's talk about him.
So yeah, the dog is, I mean, the first time you see him, he's already like everything that he's gonna ever be in the episode. So he's moaning about helping the kid out. He's constantly whining all the way through the episode, and then he's got all these lines where he sort of has to say a robot equivalent of something. So everything is like, oh, I should lay off the grease instead of like the food or whatever. Or it's like, oh, I'm gonna the bugs crawl around in your circuits instead of your organs or something. There's constantly this, like, every single line is like a robot, like,
it's like just
variation. Yeah.
I'm a robot.
That's it. And it's like, yeah, we clearly know you're a robot. Like, that was never contested that you were a robot dog. Also, I mean, his design, I don't really like the look of him. Like, he seems like he should be the villain's pet.
Yeah, he looks like he's just like a ball.
Yeah.
And his face doesn't
compel you to.
It's not very endearing to look at.
No, it really isn't. Like, he's got these like little beady eyes, and then his teeth are like, he's got like teeth missing. So he looks like a villain in the way that, like, his dentistry's all over the place. And I mean, it's a robot dog as well, so it's not like, high fees at the dentist.
Yeah.
They just hook him up with some more teeth. And the way his mouth moves, like I said, was like, it just kind of made that worse.
Yeah.
Like, it already looked bad, but then when he spoke, it was like, oh man, this is going all over the place. And yeah, he's kind of irritating all the way through the episode. Not nice to look at, not nice to listen to. And I mean, you have to listen to him way more than you probably want to. So yeah, I could have done without him entirely in the episode. Like, I understand the kid needs a buddy or whatever.
You need the comedy sidekick.
Yeah, but yeah, I'd have preferred something else other than Bubbles.
Well, it's such a the comedy sidekick is in pretty much everything. There's always one.
Yeah.
But it doesn't always work. It's something that really has to be, done properly.
Yeah.
And it's so undervalued. I guess, like, it's easy to not think about. You're just like, well, I have a comedy sidekick. But it doesn't always work, and it quite often doesn't work. The amount of times we've talked about, like, oh, this character is so
yeah, just becomes an irritation.
Yeah.
And the thing is, as well, he meets the girl in it. One of the girls, not the horrific girl that apparently is well known. He meets a girl in it of like, you know, episode 1. So it's almost like, did we even need Bubbles at this point? Because it looks like he's going to have someone to go with.
Ali, I think.
Yeah, that's the one. So, you know, at this point, I'm like, oh man, could we have just done it without Bubbles? What a show that would have been.
Yeah, I think. Buttons is
Buttons.
We call him Bubbles.
Bubbles, yeah. That's how annoying he was. Like, I blanked his name purposely in my brain.
Well, yeah, apologies for that if you've been screaming at us for the last.
Buttons.
It's so wrong. You don't even know. Yeah.
Yeah, Bubbles is an even better name as well. Like Buttons is like an annoying name.
What I did notice, and this is very much from, I think, you know, you've got to remember it's an old show and it's, you know, it's a different time, but it's just the first episode, so I don't know if, like you say, there's other characters that pop up, but there's only one female in it.
Yeah.
And she's like a schoolgirl.
Mm.
And it just felt a bit like, oh, this is not doing very well for representation, really.
Yeah.
Like I say, that may change as it goes on, but I did notice it.
Yeah.
And it's strange. It's funny. It's like something. It's good, really, that you notice these things now.
Mm.
I was thinking about this the other day with all sorts. Like, you know, this is 2007. It's not even that old.
Yeah.
And I know it is like it's from a different part of the world, so you know things are seen differently. But if we'd have watched this in 2007, probably wouldn't have even come to mind for us.
Yeah.
So you know, things are changing.
That's it.
Side point.
And I mean, like that's the thing, isn't it? Like if we notice it, then like people making shows nowadays will notice it. So like they'll, you know, hopefully they'll fix it before it gets out. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, we made a mistake here. Let's sort this out. So yeah, that's good that it's just on your mind, I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't get to see too many characters. I don't think. Like we had that brief stint in the sort of like, you know, the camp area where there's all the trading going on with the dodgy guy that's like the pawn shop guy. Seems to be like selling all the all the scrap and stuff. He seemed a bit dodgy and had like a dangerous robot with him. And his dad seems like a fairly stand-up guy.
Well, I mean, yeah, I've just read. I was just quickly glancing at some of the stuff about the characters, and I've just read a part of it just says the death of Marty's father. Literally, I've just read this. Spoiler.
Oh.
Marty is the main character who becomes Eon Kid.
Mm-hmm.
So his father must die.
Oh man. High spoilers.
Yeah. Apologies, but that's pretty intense.
Oh man, it's all going on the line for Eon Kid now.
And that's something you wouldn't expect in a show like this. Like you'd expect that to maybe happen before the show begins.
Yeah. Because I mean, where's his mum? I'm assuming she's brown bread already. But...
Well, who knows? I mean, I've literally just read this part of a sentence. I don't know how much you know, obviously I'm talking, so it's hard to sit and read too much. Maybe I should have done this before. Apologies.
Just dropping false spoilers all the way.
You know, I was like, I've watched the episode. I don't need to. Yeah. There's clearly so much more.
Yeah.
But yeah, very that's intriguing.
Mm.
But it does feel like there's plenty to come. Like there's this mysterious evil robot on the sort of Junkers camp.
Yeah. That,
you know, it's clearly going to come up again.
Mm.
And I like that side of it. I like the intrigue.
Yeah.
Which didn't really pull on it at the time until it ended.
Mm.
And then it felt like, oh, you know, there's quite a lot in that actually that is going to carry on clearly.
Yeah, I thought it was cool as well that we saw that like the guy who initially seemed like the bad guy, sort of later on in the episode, we saw that like he was kind of being pushed by, you know, the robots or whatever, like the main bad guy, like the general's crew or whatever. Then, so like even he had some sort of like, you know, he wasn't just a two-dimensional character. It's like, man, like this guy's just like he's under pressure from the guys, the the sharks have come to, to take his kneecaps out or whatever. So it's like, oh man, yeah, this is pretty good. Like it's more than just standard villain, because he did look kind of standard. He's got like a weird
Yeah.
lab coat on for some reason.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
you know, he's got that mustache going on and stuff. So yeah, it was
Yeah.
good. He was more than just standard.
Yeah, more than meets the eye with this show, I think, definitely.
Yeah. But I mean, obviously they couldn't, you know, use that as the slogan, because that's somewhere else as well. Legal troubles.
Legal trouble. Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, we've sort of covered stuff. Shall we go over to our reviews?
Yeah.
Marty makes you feel
He's a scavenger with a heart of steel.
as Iron Kid, all jets ablaze.
He's fighting and smiting with repulsor rays.
Amazing armor.
Iron Kid, a blazing power.
That's Eon Kid. Okay, so here at Toon Jam Podcast, we have a 3-point rating system that goes as follows. Thumbs up, Elite Series.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Thumbs down. What was her name? That character. That female character that
Jenny.
hated. Yeah, big time. And shaky middle, comedy sidekicks. Not always good, no, not always bad. Okay, so that essentially means thumbs up good, thumbs bad, thumbs down bad, and shaky middle is pretty much as it sounds, a shaky middle. Okay, so Eon Kid or Iron Kid, your thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah, I think like from the get-go, I was like, oh, this is it looks nice, looks good. I'm glad they sort of strayed away from the, like I said before, you know, the sort of like play-by-play action kind of stuff. I mean, it looked nice, but I mean, I think we've seen that before quite a lot of times. So I thought the story was quite cool as it went on. It seems like they've got a pretty cool world there that they're sort of developing. I mean, we did only see a little bit of it, so I'm sure it does seem to sort of, from what we've seen, it looks like it's going to get better. And I mean, most of the characters are pretty likable, except for Buttons, who made it kind of hard to watch at times, I felt. Like, you know, even, you know, the scenes where it's serious, just him with all his like robo equivalents, just really and you know, he's in it too much for my liking. I did like that, you know, once you saw the weapons and stuff all go down, like it all looks pretty cool, and it seems like it's going to go places. So I think if it wasn't for Buttons, it probably would have been, you know, a pretty strong thumbs up. But just knowing that he's going to be there throughout the whole time, I mean, you know, if only Marty's dad could have swapped fates with Buttons, I think it's going to have to be a shaky middle from me.
Shaky middle.
Shaky middle.
Okay, well, okay, fair enough. Yeah, this one was a difficult one for me. It did, I will say before I go into it, it did shake up my feelings on Cubics.
Yeah.
Because obviously, as you remember, I gave Cubics a thumbs up, but it did make me realise how much of that was, I mean, I knew at the time really, but it was like, yeah, there's definitely a lot of nostalgia at play. I didn't have the nostalgia for this.
Yeah.
And it did feel very similar. It didn't have the things that I sort of like really did like sort of growing up about Cubics. I think it was just, you know, the colourful like niceness of it visually.
Yeah.
It just looked so bright and so nice. Whereas this was all very brown.
Yeah.
You know, like all, you know, it's all canyon time. That might change as it goes on. I did have issues with. I didn't really connect with it. But that being said, I did like what they did. I did think it was intriguing, and it would be nice to know a bit more, especially now I've read that hearty spoiler that anyone that might not have seen it before, apologies for that, because I just blurted it out like without any warning. So, sorry about that. But, it's been out for a while now.
Yeah, I think
that's fair. But yeah, there's definitely stuff going on, and it's one of them that I can imagine. It takes me back to being off school sick, and when you got to watch stuff that was on in the day. This would be one of the a great show to just sit and watch while you're off school.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? A sick day cartoon. Even now, if you're sick, you just want to put something on, veg out to it. This would be pretty good. It's intriguing. It's got what you want, but it's not too heavy. So yeah, there's ups, there's downs. I'm a shaky middle as well, I think. But in saying that, it is a high shaky middle.
Yeah.
For what that's worth. 2 shaky middles, I think, is a fair rating.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Because that's, it's, you can see why it's not, massive. But it's good enough, and I think maybe if you watch more, I can see why people really connect to it.
Yeah, it's got some good stuff to it, some good elements in there.
Yeah. I think we always say shaky middle. It's a good rating.
Still worth a watch. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still an okay rating. Okay, well, there you go, Eon Kid. I hope that was satisfactory. I imagine it probably, wasn't. But such is life, and like I say, 2 shaky middles, I'd be happy with that. Okay, well, thank you for joining us today. I hope that you enjoyed it, and if you do have a difference and you want to tell us why you love it or why you hate it equally, get in touch. You can do so on the 3 buttons of the internet: Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Toon Jam Pod. We're always happy to have a little chat about stuff, and if you have any recommendations, send them over. We always like to visit stuff that you guys recommend. Otherwise, if you'd like to get more bonus episodes, you can go over to our Patreon, which is patreon.com/ToonJamPod, for some extra stuff. We've just finished up our sports section on there, some pretty interesting episodes. The Hulk Hogan cartoon, which
very notable.
As mad as it sounds. So you check it out. Otherwise, like I say, thanks for listening, and hopefully we'll see you again next week. Same jam time, same jam channel. And you stay jammy.
Hey everyone, thank you for listening. If you want to help the show keep going, you can be extra jammy by heading over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/ToonJamPod. Here you can get a shout out on the show or unlock bonus episodes. Ratings and reviews anywhere you listen to the podcast also really help us out. So thank you, and stay jammy.